Hey guys, welcome to another Folktale Dev Hangout. Today we're going to be looking at a very rough version of our first implementation of the world editor and discussing some of the changes that are happening there in terms of the way that we structure all of the location files and worlds. So we'll go through that. You can see a little sort of prototype on the screen now. We'll also be looking at the new Glade architecture by having a quick look at how that map is progressing and some of the work we're doing in that, as well as some of the cutscenes in the bandit caves, as well as going through the changelog. So a reasonable bit to get through, and if you've got any questions then please feel free to ask in chat and I will do my best to keep up and answer those questions for you. Okay, first of all, just to check that you guys can hear me okay, so we'll just check that before I proceed. And then we'll get right to it. Okay, just waiting for it. Anyway, I'll crack on and we can always restart if there is a technical problem. Yes, this will be the new place for the Hangouts. Because it's a bit easier for us to record video and then just because it's in YouTube, it's automatically saved to YouTube, and we can get better quality out of it as well. So this will indeed be the new home. I will just paste that link again into there we go, Twitch, just so people know where we're at. Okay, so what are we looking at here? We are looking at the world editor and a little world that we put together quite literally yesterday. It is artistically very much a work in progress. The art team have only had yesterday to work on it. So the prototype has been built and then we've just put some assets into there. So let's have a look at how this is actually broken down. We have individual pieces that we can move just like you would normally in the editor. Oops, a little bit higher, let's say leave it there. And we've got a selection of different coloured pieces. Now at the moment it is in sepia tone. It may or may not stay like that. It's colour underneath, but the colours are a little bit off at the moment and we're experimenting with sort of like dirt and textures and colour and things like that. So I've just put sepia tone on there and desaturated it so that it's a little bit easier on the eye and you guys can see where things are. Yeah, don't worry about the colour. This is purely a functional prototype. So it's very rough around the edges. There will be bugs in it. Later in the play, you'll see some visual bugs like the little red spawn point cubes are being left behind in the game. So yeah, this is an eternal dev build. So there are going to be glitches that will show in this that aren't going to be in a public release. Okay, so we have, if you are familiar with some of the maps that I've worked on as part of the streams, you'll see some of them here. You'll be familiar with them. So Mordrick's Factory is the sort of the dungeon, the classic dungeon that I often work in. Shirebrook is the new, and we've got the tutorial and the Howling Tundra is the snow map, and Stinking Swamp you'll be familiar with. So those are existing maps. Shirebrook is a map that will become the first map that the player goes into in our world that you're looking at here. And you've seen some of that. I've shared some of that in previous streams. What we haven't seen, we haven't looked at the Glade, and I possibly haven't shared the Bandit Caves, all of which are work in progress. Okay, so we will go, first of all, let's have a look functionally at what you do. So when you come into the map designer from the main menu, this it will now go into the world editor, which is what you're looking at here. If we want to actually edit an individual map or move it around, then it's just like another piece, and we can move its location. At the moment, I can freely look around. Now, the map will be a fixed, possibly be a fixed angle. At least that's the way that it's being designed initially. So perhaps the angle that you're looking at here. But in the editor, we'll have a toggle button up here, and you'll be able to get down quite low to be able to see and move the individual pieces. So if you want to move trees up and down, we've got little sort of little stone piles that you can add detail. And we'll be adding to this some more and more details so you can have some interest in the map over time. As I say, it's a very early prototype that I'm sharing here today. I'll just check up on chats. Okay. No, in the game you will get the 3D view, which is something like the angle that I've got it at now. Whether we allow movement around the map, I don't know. I think we'll probably make it a fixed view, because there's no real need for the player to sort of move around the world map. It's only really in the editor that you need precise control of all the individual pieces. So if I want to sort of drop in a snow piece, I can. I could obviously just move the camera over there so I can get precise positioning, rotate it, and you can build up a map just by layering pieces, and you can see the effect that I've got now. We've got we'll have gradients and tile and pieces for all the different biomes that we have in the game. Obviously, you can't see that at the moment in the map because it's sepia tone, but you can see here on the left that we've got volcanic, swamp, and we'll have blend colours between these. And I want to experiment with putting textures on these as well, to lift the aesthetic of the world map. In terms of actually placing pointers, where have they gone? Actually, there we go. Okay. If I actually want to create a new map, I can. I just go to the location pin, and that creates a new location for us. Now, if I just go over to the maps folder, ignore all these sort of spacings at the moment, you'll see that it's created a map called New Location. And I can just, I'll position that, and I can click on the name, and let's call this, I don't know, Swampy Swamp. And then if I want to, what I can do is I can set this as the starting location. Okay, sorry, can you use real map assets for that world, trees and buildings? We're going to prevent that. Technically you can at the moment, although I think it may have already been blocked. We don't want you using real game assets here. What we will do is we will produce approximations of them. The reason for that is that this has got to exist in memory at all times, and therefore its memory footprint's got to be quite low. So we don't want you sort of putting in different real world assets into this. Not real world, but you know, the real game world. Okay, so you can set the start location, so this will then mean that the player will enter into this location, and then to go into the map designer I can just go to the edit, but I don't want to do that right now, so I'm going to set Shirebrook back, and what we will do is then we can go into edit Shirebrook. So we click edit, and then it will load up the map into the editor, which everybody's very familiar with. And then if I come over here, we have now again creatively it's very limited at the moment. Let's get the right kit open. Systems and portals. Yeah. Okay. So under the there's a new kit called portals, and in there we have this thing called portal road sign, which if I just select, you'll see here that we have a portal in the inspector, and we can actually choose the map. So we want the Bandit Caves, and then it will give me a list of these portal entry points. So you can have multiple entry points into and out of a dungeon. So if we wanted to have, I'll just say that's cave entrance, if we wanted to actually have 2 cave entrances, so maybe one over here and this one goes to a different location within the next map, we can do that. Okay, so then let's go ahead now, we'll jump back to the world map and then we'll jump into the Bandit Caves that I was doing. So we'll go back to the world editor and then we'll select Bandit Caves, go back to edit. Is the sepia shader going to be an option? I don't know. It'll have to be consistent whatever we do, I think. So, and I've not decided. It really depends how the artistic sort of development and concepting of it goes. Not really concepting, but just experimentation. Okay, so we are in the new map that I made literally Monday. Did I do this Monday? Yes, I think I did. I'll just sort of zoom over it so you can see it's just a sort of a network of caves and tunnels. Oops. And then, forgive me, there's a little area over here that we've got a cutscene in. So I'll go ahead and I'll trigger this and we can have a look at that because we've made some changes. Okay, so I'll just go back to the start. Another thing that we've got is a placeholder. If we just go ahead and play that. Shall we move over a little bit? There we go. Okay. Oh, I didn't fix it. Right. Okay. So a couple of bugs. First of all, the fact that the little red cube is displaying. Let's move away from that. And I've just literally been putting Freya in, who is the paladin, dwarf paladin. But there's a bug that I need to fix on her. So she's got a standing version following around, but never mind. So let's go ahead and we'll just clear through. It doesn't seem to be moving actually. Alright, so I'm going to go straight for the area where the cutscene is. It's very much the environment that I've done so far. I haven't put that much scripting in it or monsters or anything like that. So while we're fighting, so sorry about that, turn the volume down and blow you all away. Yeah, the fact that we've used the existing editor, obviously, if you're familiar with using the map editor and you've used it for the past, I don't know, year, then it'll be second nature to you to put together worlds. I mustn't forget which way I'm going. There is no game sound. Right. Is there any music playing? I wonder. Yeah, the microphone is going to be. Yeah, I know what's going on. Yeah. All right. It's going to be a low quality stream, this one, because if there's no game sound, it means that it's using the mic on my webcam, which is going to sound pretty rubbish. So apologies for that. Okay, so here's a new cutscene. This is Kenny flapping around, and the dialogue's recorded for this, but I haven't put it in yet. So we've hidden the UI, and you only have the dialogue open. We've also changed the camera path, so now you only have to, if you don't want to pan along the path and you just want to frame a shot like I have done here, then all you need to do is just specify one point, which we'll go in and have a look at that shortly. So you can frame shots like this quite nicely. In terms of detail and everything, I'll work on that in the future. Alright, so he's dead. Oops, I haven't set a name. She's called Ralph Lilith at the moment. Okay. So Freya isn't set up at the moment. She's got no abilities. She hasn't even got a portrait, so it's really just a placeholder. Very, very early days. I literally started importing her into the game about an hour ago, and obviously I've made a mistake, and I forgot to delete that secondary mesh. Okay, let's return to the editor, and then we can jump back to the world editor. I saw a line there somewhere. I'm not quite sure what that was from. Yeah, so we'll keep experimenting with this, and I'm sure there'll be, at the moment, like I can't hide this kit browser, which I need to be able to do, and there are some buttons missing. But yeah, I think we'll arrive at a decent world map, and the fact that you can build it as you like. So if I just sort of rip it apart, you can see how it's built up. We've got trees there. Just move those back into position. Okay, so let's go have a look at. Actually, while I'm in here, if you guys want to ask any questions, then feel free, and I can go in and have a look at this, and maybe if you guys have got some thoughts then that you want to share with us, then now is a fantastic time to do that. While we're doing that, I'll maybe just go ahead. I'll just flip around this side, and perhaps I've got some land under the water just to make it sort of an interesting little look. Move that out. And let's go ahead and make this a bit more interesting. So as you can see, it's exactly the same as you've been doing. I should probably just level these up a little bit. Oops. That is one thing we've got to watch out. Is again, because it's a prototype, there are little quirks in it, like you can accidentally start renaming one of the levels. It's just something you've got to watch out. And of course you can duplicate, so I'll just press Control D on this shape to duplicate it. And then maybe I want some trees, so I can duplicate the trees. Just go down, make sure they're actually on the surface, so they're there. All the normal keys work, so you can rotate. And then we've got some little decals. If you want to make it a little bit more interesting, where's one of those little piles of stone? We'll get one of those there as well. Of course, scaling works as well. yeah, so I think with a few more props, we should get it nice. Now, in terms of the location markers, at the moment they're just these big, ugly cubes, not cubes, but boxes, and we're likely to change those to one of two things: either to be nice black and white icons that denote points of interest, so it can be a map, or it could be a cave, or it could be a tower. The sorts of icons that you would typically see on a world map, or we could do sort of 3D versions of those. At the moment, I'm tending towards the sprite-based approach. Will there be some sort of captured or cleared out area info above the places? I think that's, yeah, it's possible. Maybe on a tooltip rather than actually shown on the map, because there's potentially going to be quite a few locations around the map, and we don't want to clutter it with more things. But it's certainly something for us to think about doing. Yeah, like locks unlock. The plan will be not to add location markers, and you will unlock those through Workbench. So we'll give you a node in Workbench for unlocking a location. I need to put that actually in the task list. So that gets done. So let me make a note of that. So it's a node to unlock map entry and show on map. Because using that, it would also be very nice in terms of perhaps you find a treasure map in a chest, and then that unlocks a little location that you can travel to. Perhaps just a little clearing or something like that you can go and travel to, find a few monsters, and then you can find the loot. Yeah, I'll just reiterate. So there's no game sound at the moment, unfortunately. I'm not really sure why. I could pause the stream, I suppose, but we'll keep going. Because the stream is not really about. I'm not going to be playing the game as such. We're mostly looking at portals and how they're going to be implemented, and having a discussion about those. Why can't you use some of the icons you have for buildings? Like for the buildings in game, when you select or have something very simple objects with some colour. Well, they're different. They're designed different. Well, I suppose we've got the assets for them. Yeah, yeah, it's possible. It's possible that we could use that. I don't know. I'm not sure whether you would want building icons as points of interest. Maybe, I don't know. I'm not. Never say never. Easier to show what areas that has. Yeah, in terms of styling the map and the locations, we'll aim to provide props that will give you a hint as to the factions that you're likely to find there. So, for example, in the lava fields, you've got the cult of Pyros, you've got House Thrawn as well. Over in the Stinking Swamp, you've obviously got the Grublins and the Toadkin. The Swampy Swamp. Actually, let me think about that. Do we have delete at the moment? Backspace. Yes. Do you want to delete Swampy Swamp? Yes. All right, get rid of that map. Yeah, or we may have sort of little faction flags, so little flying flags to show where the different factions are. Again, that's something else that we could perhaps show on here. I don't think we would need a key because, well, you wouldn't anymore because you've got tooltips. You don't really need a key when you can just hover over a point of interest. Okay. Freddie, it's really up to you in terms of what you script. Okay, so the other place I wanted to go into was the Glade, so let's go in there, have a look at that, and the new Factory for Player. Now this is, again, work in progress because I'm waiting for some assets to come from the art team. Oh, we've got Kindle, 2 Kindles. All right, again, these are test ones as well. So Kindle is the Pyromancer, Cult of Pyros Pyromancer, but again, they don't have. He's also very early, so doesn't have any abilities or portrait or anything like that at the moment. So he's very much a placeholder. Did I script anything here? I don't think I did. No, I didn't. All right, so let's just go through. And of course, Quixel is using Sir Gregory's voice at the moment. Oh God. Right, this might not go quite so well. Oh, it's not a problem. Hopefully they will die and then I can go. So these will, Kindle will be a ranged caster, so at the moment it's just going to melee. So let's just turn Fog of War so we can actually go and have a look around this map. It is a scripted area, so there is the faction script. Some of the things that are in here, like the B yards, are placeholders at the moment, and while we wait on assets. And then we're working on like an area for the Glade, so different bridges and buildings and things. You can see it's very much work in progress because the map's not finished. And we're working on walls, and we'll have doorways, and gates, and things like that. So let's go back here. Zoom out much more. Probably not. So this gives you an idea of the Glade. I can go back and jump into the editor, I think, to have a look around this. Turn to editor. It's probably better to do it in the editor. So this is one of the buildings. Oops. Let's pull up the Glade kit. We class it as a dungeon. What we've done is we have provided variations of the cave cliffs. This one with grass on. So there are ones in the it's Grasslands Caves, I think it's called. Let's have a look. That have got mud on the top, and these aren't paintable, so we've provided the grass ones as well. This is obviously meant to be a bit more of a leafy sort of. I guess it's sort of, well, the fairies, so I guess it's like that whole elves fairies vibe going on. The area is very much work in progress, though. The art team are working on the assets for that. The next thing that we're expecting for this area will be the main gates for the Tangled Court, which we're going to have up here. Let's see what else is in here. This is like a sub map off the Shirebrook map. So it's very much like an adventuring map. You won't be building anything on here. So it's going to have more detail on it. And obviously that has to be built. So that's coming along. Anybody got any questions while we're on this one? Yeah, in terms of the lighting, we'll balance all the lighting later. If it's too dark, so we'll benchmark it against the other environments, and then we'll adjust the lighting accordingly. At the moment, it's very green as well, which causes some problems with some of the characters. So that is something that we'll be adjusting. So just giving you a heads up on what will be coming in the near future. Okay, so let me go ahead and pull up the. Let's do it on here actually. So by far the biggest thing that we've been working on is the world designer, because that ties everything together. And we needed to do that work because it changes, as I said, it changes the file structure slightly and the way that the hierarchy of where files are stored. Everything is essentially just shifted down a level. You can have multiple worlds. So if I just jump back to this and go back, so we've got one world here. There's no reason why you can't create a second world. In fact, if you start the game up, let's do that now. So I'll just quickly shut this down, and start this up again. And we'll go in and I'll show you how you can actually do that. So as I say, if you go into Map Designer, I guess we'll have to change the wording of that. And then the first thing that you'll get presented with, you can either create a new world or you can open an existing world. So you can go ahead and create a world and it will just be blank and you'll be starting with a blank canvas. Or you can just go to Open World, and then we can see we've got one temporarily called Iboria. I haven't thought of a name. We don't have a name for the wider world. We may not need one. Well, I suppose we do, because obviously we need it here. So we'll be doing some brainstorming about that in the team. And then we've gone into the world editor, and then from there we can drop down into individual maps, and we can play those individual maps, or we can actually play the map, play the world, and that will take us into the starter location, which is Shirebrook. You can also click the button in the upper left corner of the screen. I am advised. Oh yeah, I could just call it campaign, I suppose. I'm sorry, I missed that one, Aaron. If you want to, you mentioned about you can also click a button in the upper left corner of the screen. Oh, skill, right, yeah, new. Okay, so if I wanted to create a new world, if you create a new world, you will lose all unsafe changes. Yeah, so that's no problem. So you can create a new one there, or presumably open an existing one. Yeah. So let's just do that now. So let's go create, yes, and that's presumably my blank world. So if I go ahead and put some water in there, and then put a location pin in there, call it, I know, my first map. Simple as that. I say simple as that. And then we go to edit. It should be a blank map. Yep. And then we go ahead and use the terrain generator or something. Let's go ahead and do that now. Terrain generator. Let's say that we want snow. Create the map. just let the ambience tone down a little bit. Okay. Save. This is the world, isn't it? Is this the world? I think that's the world. Let's go back. Oh, that looks like a bug. Yeah, okay. Can we go back there? Let's have a look. Yep, okay. And if we go back in and edit. So I hope. Ooh, nope, looks like the save didn't work. Alright, so there's some bugs that we'll replay this back and have a look at that and get that fixed. But as I say, it is an internal dev build. There are bugs, as we've seen throughout the stream. We'll obviously work to clean those up. But you get the idea of how it's meant to work anyway. Okay. So what I was doing, what I was doing, of course, was going to have a look at some of the changes that have been done recently. So give me a second. Okay, something to be aware of. Actually, let's go back. Just open up another world. Let's go into the Bandit Caves, because this is what I want to show you. We're introducing the ability, well, you also have the ability to do it, but you can set the far clipping plane for the camera. So you can see here in the distance, I'll just move the camera back, that there's not that much draw distance in this. So just be aware, we'll most likely be limiting the camera so that you can't raise it. Like you probably can't raise it above maybe that sort of angle. Apart from in cinematics where you'll be able to come and get down here, but then you'll use sort of smoke and mirrors to fill in and make sure that you don't have any sort of black areas. Oh, I forgot one thing as well. What's this big black thing that's on the floor? This is a portal entry point. So if you remember me placing one of these, oh, and of course we can show you that as well. If you remember me placing one of the portal road signs back in Shirebrook map, I also have one here, but the road sign from Shirebrook actually points to this portal entry, and we call this cave entrance. So if we go back into the Shirebrook map, then on the inspector, the portal, the linked entry point, see this says Bandit Cave Entrance, which is actually back on the other map. But that portal will actually give this name as Cave Entrance, and that's how we are able to associate the two. And of course I could actually put that anywhere in the map I wanted to. It doesn't have to be near the exit back out, but what I can do is we can go ahead, let's go back to Shirebrook and play that. I'll just get through all this. All right, so I'm going to go up to the portal. Oh, that was interesting. One of the cutscenes didn't trigger. Right, so I'm coming up here. And again, apologies, there's no game sound in the stream. And the mic quality is rubbish. So that's now triggered for some reason. Alright, so now I've killed everything. I'm not bothered with loot. Now, if you remember, this I've got to test this, but these guys, when I came into range, they would actually come back to life. And the corpses have actually moved, which is another thing that I don't want that to happen. So if a character is marked as dead, don't repull it. Seconds. Okay, so this is where Sir Gregory would actually come into the cave. And then we have here, you see we've got our road sign. It is just very much like a real first test of a portal. We'll have different sort of portals. Obviously a road sign doesn't make much sense outside a cave entrance, so we'll introduce those as we go. But in terms of interaction, I just need to right click on that, and then when somebody comes to interact with it, enter cave entrance. Yeah. Oops. Now forget these because these are just test characters. Oops. I can't do that, can I? Turn off and follow. So forget these guys here because they were there just for me to test while I was making the map. So we entered with Sir Gregory, so Sir Gregory will appear, and if you remember that circle, that black circle, he will appear, or your adventuring group will appear within that circle. So if we were to, in fact, let's try that now. Let's go ahead and free a character. Let's go and get Quixel is just down here. It's a bit, obviously it's a bit empty at the moment. And I'll just, at the moment I can get him for testing purposes, so let him join in combat. Okay, so let's go back to the entrance. And then if we exit the cave, then Quixel should also be with us. Actually, I wonder whether these test characters will be with us as well. Good test. So he's inspecting the road sign. Travel to Bandit Cave entrance, yes. Now, the question is, how many heroes came with me? Oh. That's definitely bugged. Oh, it looks like they all came with us. Okay, that's just because I added them to our adventuring party. Anyway, so that gives you an idea that if you go in, we entered with Sir Gregory, we had a conversation with Quixel, unlocked him, he joined the adventuring party, and then we exited out, and he was with us. So characters are now moving across maps, if you like, which is obviously a requirement. All right. As I say, still a bit buggy, but it's nice to be able to show you what we're working on. Portals are really probably the biggest piece that was missing from the jigsaw in terms of, we've done all this work on the location editor, and we're now able to make really nice maps. But in terms of writing adventures and going and exploring adventures and expanding the borders beyond your village map, then portals were what we needed. Now that is in place. We will release that first to the experimental build, so you guys can have a little bit of play with that, and also maybe get your maps in order. For now, if you go into, if we just exit to the main menu, if you go into new game, we might have to change this a little bit, because obviously the naming is all a bit weird, and we need people that are buying the game for the first time to be able to play the tutorial, so it needs to be in order. So we're going to have to maybe make some modifications to this a little bit. But you can go into individual maps, so if you want to play the Stinking Swamp, then you can go ahead and do that just like before. But obviously in time we will be making it so that you start a world rather than going into an individual map. But there'll be a transitionary period where we've moved from essentially single maps across to having worlds. I think really what we need to do is also provide the ability to play individual maps, because there are maps that are designed, such as the Stinking Swamp and the Tundra map, the Snow Tundra map, they're designed for sort of harder gameplay. So we'll probably do that as well. Okay. Let me make sure I haven't missed any chats. If you guys have got any questions, then please do feel free to ask. I'll try my best to answer. Okay. All right, so back to the changelog. Let's see what else. Tweak the colliders on all the monsters, so they should be easy to select now and target in combat. I've increased the distance that characters will stand apart, which helps prevent them sort of crossing over each other, so that they can run as a group. Actually, let's go and try that now in the Bandit Caves. Oops. No, typical. One thing that you won't be able to hear, because there's no game sound coming through and my mic, is that we've added the ambience to this as well, so there's like a dripping sort of cave sound in there as well. Let's turn on Command All. So now you see that they stand a little bit further apart. So before, Sir Greg was standing right on top of other members of the party. A little bit there. You get fewer instances of them standing on top of each other. The world editor we've covered. Map entry and exit points. Folder structures changed. Guards. Glade kit. Start with Kindle. Modular waterfall pieces. Ah, right, yes. Okay, another change. Let's go back to the editor. Set allegiance. We've changed that slightly. Let's go ahead, just jump over here to Quixel. Doesn't he have one? Okay, all right, well, blank sheet's fine. We've got a new node called set faction, which it doesn't tie up totally at the moment with the factions that have got planned in the game. So let's go and choose Quixel there. Use that one, but you can actually set the faction so you'll have things like Toadkeen, House Huron, Cult of Pyros, Groblins, and so on, and you'll be able to actually set which one. Now we've added one called Cutscene, and this will more than likely will phase out set allegiance, the set allegiance node, which if I just go down here, we'll phase this out because the faction will introduce a faction system so that you'll be able to, when you're scripting a quest, you'll be able to adjust faction standing. So if you help one faction, it might lead to a decrease in your standing with another faction, but because you're designing your world, you want to be able to determine which faction it will reduce the standing of. So we'll create a node for that. So it'll be, I don't know, it'll be add faction standing, and you'll choose which faction it is, and then you can enter a positive or negative integer. Okay, so that's one change. Now the cutscene, doing that, it also means that we hide all the UI and all that sort of stuff. So that's something to be aware of. There are some more nodes that we've added, which is, if we go to store, we've added store global bool and store global number. These are for storing values across maps. Very, very useful when used in conjunction with questing. So if you want to track whether part of a quest has been done, I can go up here and give it a quest part complete. I don't know, met the monk, and I can set that to true. So that's when I store it, and then I use get global bool, and I can feed that in as a condition. So when that condition is true, I could then progress on. And this could be in a completely different map. Okay. So by default, bools are false. I hope you guys are following me so far. And the store numbers, I've not personally used it myself yet, but I'm sure you can use it in conjunction with things like statistics. I don't know, killed skeleton. And you can store a number that way. How many dead skeletons? Whatever you want to call it, anyway. Okay, so very useful nodes, as I say. I use those quite a lot myself. Even if it's just, not so much in this map actually. Let's go back to, I hope that hasn't saved. I suppose it doesn't matter, I'm going to back up a bit. One thing I will say is that this does change the fact that you're not going to be, you're just going to be hitting save, you're not going to be creating a new version. Now, I was obviously a little bit nervous about that at first because I do like creating all my different sort of versions, file versions. I mean, you can still go in and back up the whole world if you want to do that, but that's currently a manual process. However, I've found it reliable, so nothing's gone wrong yet, touch wood. But it is a change that you need to be aware of. Okay, so I wanted to go into Sharp. I can just have a look at some of the scripting. Is it possible to create some city with sellers and quests and teleport back to it as you want? I think it's probably likely that we will add in some sort of town portal for fast travel back to your village. You could, let me think, could you create some city with sellers? I mean, there's no dedicated dialogue for selling, like market trading at the moment. So I don't think you could do it that way in terms of an independent one, but you could obviously go back to your own village if you wanted to craft something. Okay, so yeah, I want to come in here, didn't I? So I think Kenny has kind of got some script on him. Let's see. It just uses an animation. Maybe something. Oh, here we go. Right, so get global ball. Kenny's run off. Well, Kenny doesn't run off. Let me just see. Store global bubble. Oh, that's defeated bandits. So where does Kenny run off? I guess he doesn't do it there. Let's see if he does it. Ah, right, okay, maybe he does it in this main script. Yeah. Let's see that. Store global ball. Okay, there we go. Kenny run off. So it's actually an entirely different script. It's still within the same scene, but I would be able to access that variable from another map if I wanted to. And then, as I say, I think it was in here, wasn't it? Yeah, so when Kenny has run off in that other script, then I can trigger for this script to continue. Okay, so it's a very useful sort of glue to stick together and get different scripts interacting with each other. Okay. All right, back to the changelog. Let's see what else we've got. Ah, yes, I talked about camera paths, didn't I? So if we go in to default scripts, where's that camera path? Let's clear those wires. Camera path, edit. Okay. So in 0.3.3, which is in the experimental build at the moment, you had to specify 2 camera positions on a path. Now, if you just wanted to frame, say I wanted to come in close to Kenny here, and I wanted to frame this shot, to get it to work, I actually had to create 2 points. So I had to click Add New Point twice in the same position. So one of the fixes we've introduced is obviously removing that. So if you just want to just frame the camera with no movement, then you just have to create a single point. So tile batching was broken a few weeks back. That was fixed. The start screen menu is more responsive now. So if I just, I'm actually going to force quit out of this and then fire it up again, and we should see the menu starts again, and it should become, yeah, it's responsive straight away. So in the version, again, 0.3.3.3, which is upon the experimental build, there was a lag of maybe 2 or 3 seconds, possibly more, before this would actually become active, so that's been resolved. Characters mark marked as dead, no longer count towards kill statistics. I do need to check that now. Negative scaling props for mirroring now works on props with nav mesh cuts. Right, let's go ahead and have a look at that. And that is in Mordric's factory. So let's go in and edit that. And if I remember correctly, the piece was over here. Yeah, it's this piece. No, maybe. There we go. Perhaps. Okay. Let me just set this one as well. This was the same. I seem to remember. Was there another one as well? Yeah, there was. And I'll just come in here and test these. Okay. So it's fixed, so let's just flick back to the start. So I can probably replace these once I hook up this map to Shirebrook. So I'll just save that. Go ahead and test. Now what the problem here was that the nav mesh would break when doing a mirror, which is what scaling by -1 does. So let's just come over here. Alright. Good, that seems to work. Yep, that seems to be working now. Well, we can all die. Good, alright. And the other one was just a cosmetic one with tile. Just do war. Where was it? Over here. Yeah, it was just a visual fix with. So this is the same cave kit, if you like, that is used in the bandit caves, but this one's got sort of. Where is he? Oh, this one has bone finger in it and crystals and stuff. All right. So if you guys have got any questions, otherwise this is a good point to wrap up the stream, especially considering the crappy quality of the mic and the complete absence of sound in the game. Okay, let me go back and check out some of the chats. Would love something to adjust values on things, like doing this quest will add percentage or more or less value on these items, maybe like misc items or resources, gold, etc. Not quite sure I follow that, Freddie. If I want to retype that. Any idea when the world editor and portals might hit the experimental branch? As soon as we've cleaned up the last bugs, because we have the experimental branch, it means that we can push this out. Where there still might be a few sort of glitches like dialogues popping up while it's loading and stuff like that that we wouldn't normally release to the public build, but because it's an experimental build, we can get that out to you guys, and you can have a play with it and start providing us some feedback and questions. There are obviously certain things that I'd like to fix, like the spawn point boxes appearing, maybe clean up finished the creative on the world map, and just some of the other tasks that are in the task list, and then we can push that out. So I think it's been what, 2 weeks? I don't know. Time. You enter this weird sort of time dynamic when you're developing games. 2 weeks doesn't sound like a lot, but it feels like an age. It's been 2 weeks. I can't remember how long since the last patch. Not that long anyway. But yeah, we'll try and get this out as early as possible to you guys. As for the market where these quests for these guys maybe make it cheaper for trading. Ah, right, okay. Make it cheaper for trading resources. Awesome, right, okay. Raise that as a suggestion in the community forum, and then we've got a record of it rather than in, in the Hangout chat. Because if it's there, then we obviously use that as our record and link to those docs. That is definitely the best place for it. Okay, guys, so over excited about getting your hands on that world editor and tying together all those maps that you've been working on. I think this will be maybe a little bit of a bumpy sort of 4 weeks ahead, because it's a big change, and I think some things may well break, or glitches, minor glitches might be introduced. So yeah, we'll get it out there and let's get some testing done, and then we can hopefully get 0.3.4 out to the public, which of course you guys all had your hands on anyway through the experimental branch. All right, well, thanks very much for joining us in this very audio absent stream, and sorry for the crap mic quality. I'll have to sort that out for next week's stream, but yeah, have a great week and a great weekend, and we'll see. I'm not committing to a release at the weekend. We'll see how we get on, because it's Wednesday now and still quite a few things to do. But I will keep you posted on that through the Steam community forums. All right, thanks for joining us. Bye bye.